In spiritual circles, it's spoken of these days as common knowledge that God is what we are, that everything is divinity, and that the kingdom of heaven, if you like, is our inheritance that's available to us anytime we want it. That is fantastic news. So why aren't we taking advantage of that in greater numbers than we are? And really, it's because there has been a massive misunderstanding that has been perpetuated probably since the beginning of civilization, anyway, that says that we are not only separate from God, separate from divinity, but inherently unworthy and sinful, even. And we shouldn't even let God look upon us directly because we would be so offensive to those eyeballs if God had eyeballs. So this is something that, regardless of how you may think about yourself consciously, this misperception, this misunderstanding is so deeply woven into the fabric of the collective unconscious that your very cell structure, your DNA, contains these ideas of your own inherent ick, your unworthiness, and how you should be afraid of the light because it's far too pure for you. So even though in the last 50 years or so, the news has begun to be spread rather widely in spiritual communities that yes, you are divinity itself, and yes, you are the kingdom of heaven. So what are you waiting for? This is your inheritance. Please claim it. We go, oh, that's very nice. Thank you very much for the news. But I think instead of claiming it right now, what I will do is embark on a 30-year quest of intense pain and confusion while I fix what's unfixably wrong with me and while I heal all my uncountable wounds so that I can be pure enough and clear enough and strong enough to then reach for my inheritance and claim not only what's mine, but claim what I am. That's nuts. That is so nuts. Not only is it here right now, not only are you it, but it's completely within your grasp. It's completely easy. There is no reason to go hunting anywhere. It's yours. And I think I'll use a much more mundane example to try and get across just how crazy this whole idea is. Let's go in the kitchen. You have a kitchen. You have a cupboard next to the sink, presumably. And let's say that you are a coffee drinker. I am certainly a coffee drinker. So you open up the cupboard and you've made yourself the coffee. It's there in the pot, steaming hot, and you want to put it in something so that you can drink it. So on the first shelf, the bottom shelf, there is a single drinking glass. It doesn't have a handle. It isn't terribly stable, but it's on that first shelf. And you're comfortable with that first shelf because it's really the only thing you've ever known about. And your DNA likes that first shelf. Your cell structure is very comfortable with it. But on the second shelf, which you can easily reach, you just do this. It's not hard. That shelf is crammed full of the most beautiful coffee mugs that you could ever want. And they even have your name on them. Mine all say Carrie right on them. And you can't run out of those coffee mugs. There's as many of them as you could possibly want. But you go for the single glass that's on the shelf that you're comfortable with. And you have a hell of a hard time drinking your coffee from that glass because it isn't really suited. You pour the coffee in, it's too hot, you have a hard time holding it, so you either have to wait until the coffee is almost cold before you drink it, or you have to put on gloves, or you scald yourself, or there's some awkward thing, and you're terrified the whole time that you might break that glass. Because if you break that glass, or if somebody else steals that glass, then you don't have a glass. Then there's nothing to drink your coffee from. Unless you go to the shelf above that's just sitting there, that's full of brilliant, perfect mugs that are designed to hold that delicious coffee. You can't break those mugs. You can't lose, well, maybe, I don't know, maybe you could break them. You can't lose them. You can't ever be without them. Even if you decided to teach yourself to juggle with these coffee mugs. Let's say you pulled a dozen of them down from the shelf and you're standing on concrete and you're teaching yourself to juggle. Even if you're a miserable failure at juggling, you can't put a dent in the infinite number of brilliant coffee mugs that are on that shelf. If you peer into that shelf, there's no back to the shelf. Your coffee mugs go on forever. If you lived to be 100 million billion years old and you broke 1,000 mugs a day, you couldn't make a dent in how many perfect coffee mugs there are with your name on them. It's a silly analogy, yes. Not only are there infinite coffee mugs with your name on them, you are the infinite coffee mugs. That's why they have your name on them. If I want you to take away one single thing from this dumb little video, it's that you can reach the second shelf. Everybody can reach the second shelf. You're just conditioned to think that it's some other place or too difficult to get to. But even if you're very tiny as a person, even if you're in a wheelchair, even if you're in bed, you could have one of those long things with the pinchy thing on the end. You can reach the second shelf. The second shelf is your birthright. It's your home. It's what you are. It's waiting for you. There is nothing frightening about it. There is no hoop to jump through. There's no fire to walk through. Just reach up there and grab a mug. You'll be so much happier when you do.